Economic activity is showing signs of weakness, output has declined, and the number of payroll jobs has also dropped. Specifically, there are 274,000 fewer workers compared to the same period last year. Unemployment is on the rise, and inflation has followed suit. It's time to take some responsibility for the economic consequences of a budget that introduced an additional burden on employment through a £25 billion increase in national insurance contributions. This situation has nothing to do with what's happening in the United States. An interview begins, one that quickly turns into a tense exchange. What was meant to be a straightforward conversation with the Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, soon escalates into a round of tough questioning, marked by technical issues and vague answers. Within minutes, Jones is quizzed on a range of topics, from the conflict in the Middle East to grooming gang investigations and the economic downturn under the current Labour government. But when it came to tax rises and border control, his responses only raised more doubts than they answered. Up next, we break down how a cabinet minister struggled to hold his ground under pressure, live on national television. Before we begin, remember to support the channel by hitting the like button and subscribing for more updates on British current affairs. The presenter hands over to the interview with the minister. The conversation opens with a question about the Sunday Times coverage, which suggests that the UK is now on a war footing. Jones responds by referencing the growing tension between Israel and Iran, confirming that the UK has deployed additional resources to the region, including fighter jets, with the primary aim of protecting British personnel stationed there as part of counter-terror operations. He reiterates that the top priority is the safety of British staff, and that the best outcome for all parties would be a de-escalation of tensions, rather than a further escalation like the one witnessed in recent hours. When asked whether the UK is involved in Israeli-led military actions or missile interceptions, Jones makes it clear that the UK did not take part in any recent attacks. He stresses that their presence in the region is solely to safeguard British nationals. While he refrains from commenting on potential future operations, he underlines that in past incidents, British forces have provided defensive assistance, not offensive support. The interview then shifts focus to domestic matters. Jones is asked why Labour leader Keir Starmer once dismissed calls for a national inquiry into grooming gangs as far-right bandwagoning. Jones replies that a report by Baroness Louise Casey is due to be presented to Parliament this week, and that it will be central to the decision to move forward with a nationwide investigation. He insists the government has always prioritised justice for victims and the prosecution of offenders. He also notes that upon taking office, the government received a series of recommendations from the Alexis J. report and has been working to implement them since. Jones highlights that it was Starmer himself, then Director of Public Prosecutions, who worked with Casey on securing the first convictions for these crimes in Rochdale. Now that Casey's report is complete, the government has decided to launch a full national inquiry, which will be formally announced in Parliament. The conversation continues with a direct challenge regarding a recent comment Jones made on Question Time, where he stated that the majority of those crossing the English Channel illegally were women, children, and babies. In fact, data shows that the majority are adult males. Jones replies that his words were selectively edited by Reform UK, and that he was referring to two specific boats he visited during an inspection, where there were indeed mostly women and children suffering burns from exposure to engine fuel mixed with salt water. He concedes that he could have been clearer in his wording, but maintains that his message was about the need for a response that is both firm and humane in dealing with migration. He adds that the government is allocating record funding to the Border Security Command to combat human trafficking networks and reduce the number of illegal arrivals. However, the interviewer highlights the apparent contradiction. Despite these investments, nearly 1,000 migrants crossed the Channel on the 13th of June alone. The journalist accuses the government of being outmaneuvered by these criminal networks. Jones acknowledges the seriousness of the issue and says this is why efforts are being ramped up both domestically and in collaboration with European partners, particularly France, to dismantle these transnational criminal operations. He admits this is a long-standing challenge, but insists the government is taking the necessary action to address it. Attention then returns to the economy. It's pointed out that, on the same day Rachel Reeves delivered her spending review, figures revealed that the UK economy shrank by 0.3% in April, worse than expected. Jones replies that the figure reflects just 1 month, one marked by global instability, especially due to uncertainty caused by Donald Trump's announcement of tariffs. He explains that, at the time, trade agreements with the United States, the EU, and India had not yet been finalized, which contributed to a temporary market slowdown. Even so, he claims the UK was the fastest-growing economy in the G7 in the last quarter, which in his view supports Labour's economic strategy. When asked whether he can guarantee that there will be no tax rises in the autumn, Jones avoids giving a direct answer. He explains that any such decisions will depend on the economic context and the forecasts provided by the Office for Budget Responsibility ahead of the autumn budget. Pressed for a simple yes or no, the minister simply states that we'll have to wait until the full analysis is available after the summer. The interview concludes, but it leaves the impression that the minister avoided committing on several key issues. As is often the case in these kinds of interviews, government representatives appear to dodge direct questions, shift blame onto external factors, and refrain from any meaningful self-criticism. This becomes especially problematic when dealing with issues as serious as grooming gangs. It's unacceptable that calls for justice for victims were once dismissed as right-wing extremism, and that only now, under public pressure, a national inquiry is being announced. While some may argue that better late than never, the Prime Minister's past remarks remain deeply offensive, and many see this shift as more about saving face than showing genuine political will. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more analysis on current affairs. See you in the next one.